Trying to understand English grammar is like trying to solve a mystery. English grammar is irregular, contradictory, and confusing. Fortunately, though, you don't have to walk these dark streets of grammatical confusion by yourself. I'm English teacher Paul Duke, and on this show I'll be your grammar detective. Each week, we'll investigate communication crimes and suspicious sentences, context clues and example evidence. Together, we'll solve these English mysteries once and for all. Welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. I'm your humble host and grammar detective, Paul Duke, and we are streaming to you live from Vancouver, Canada, to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, and Africa TV. Wherever you are in the world, whichever platform you're on, welcome to the show. I can't thank you enough for joining me. Now, usually on the show, I answer an English grammar question sent in to me by one of the viewers. If you would like your question answered, please email me a short video clip with you asking me the question. Here's the email address right here. Send it in to me and I'll build a new show around it. However, tonight's show is a little different. You see, I'm unable to join you this evening live. This is actually a pre-recorded segment. And tonight I want to introduce you to a very special guest. She is an English teacher, a popular social media figure, a course creator, and basically an amazing educator. I'm a big fan of her work, and I know you will be too. So let's welcome to the show, Kyra Sage of Language Hack. I've really admired your work online for a long time, and about a year ago, I saw an interview with you with another educator I'm familiar with, Anish Dea from On the Spot Language. And some of the things you were talking about were really fascinating. But he didn't ask some questions that I had, so I want to get to those today.
All right.
How's the weather where you are to begin with?
It's a little misleading. It's so sunny and so bright, yet it is quite cold. It's about 50s, 51 degrees Fahrenheit, that is.
And you're in Northern California at the moment?
Yeah, San Jose. San
Jose, okay. Where I am in Vancouver has become pretty cold. Unlike the rest of Canada, where the stereotypical snowy winter prevails, Vancouver is the warmest part of the country and rarely gets snow. So the winter gets to be around 5 to 0. It kind of fluctuates in that region, but I think today is only like 8 degrees, so it's not bad.
We're talking Fahrenheit? Oh, goodness.
Celsius. Sorry, Celsius.
Oh, Celsius. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure how that would.
70. I know. I'm doing my best here. Yeah.
It's always a challenge for me. I grew up at a time when Canada still used the same system as the US. But
okay.
Yeah, we switched in the 70s to the metric system. So my generation is always kind of stuck in the middle, whereas the newer generation are completely metric.
Wow.
But I can't do the translations in my head. Anyway, on to our discussion.
Yeah.
Let's leave, what do you call it? What is that? What is that profession called?
Bygones
the weather.
Bygones.
What is weather called?
No, that's barometer, excuse me.
Yeah. You know, the weather person on the news, they have
this
a
is the
fancy
English
name.
Mystery.
Yeah, this is the English mystery of it. Anyway, let's move on from that. As I said in my introduction, I'm always very curious about how educators arrived to where they are and arrived at their professions. So I want to know a little bit about your background and how it shaped you into an educator. In other words, who is Kyra Sage and how did you become who you are today? Can you tell us?
Wow. Well, I was blessed with a very colorful life that really had an emphasis on education and the experiences involved in your life, which help educate you further. And so we'll start off with where I went to high school, which was Mission Viejo High School, which is not that far from Disneyland of all places. So I had so many opportunities as a student to go backstage at Disney and go and do projects with them and to see that all of the stuff that we're learning in school does have a true purpose in real life to grow ourselves into whatever we want to be and to always chase that dream. Moving into bachelor's, I got that as a culmination of my 3 experiences living in Hawaii, in Japan, and France. And that altogether was a really fun experience. It taught me a lot about how to live in different ways. What you do in France is not the same as what you do in Japan, nor what you do in Hawaii or even California. Um, so again, just a lot of educational experiences there. And then for my final piece was here in the Bay Area, even though it was for USC, which is for Southern California, University of Southern California. I got all of my teaching experience done online while I was a Twitch streamer playing video games.
Amazing.
So those are my kind of educational experiences and learning about video games and how gamification could help education as well, especially with this huge COVID shift to online.
Let me just touch on something. When you were in high school, how did you make did you have an early interest in languages? You mentioned Disneyland, but where was that moment where language gripped your imagination and you decided to move into, let's say, your education in language? How did you make that initial step into language? Were you always interested in language?
You know, I was a huge fan of Johnny Depp at the time. Watching Pirates of the Caribbean had just released, I think maybe its first or second movie at that time. And I read somewhere that he would go to the Ile de Ré in France and you could just find him hanging out on a beach and you could speak to him at a cafe. And I thought, I need to meet this guy. If I have to go undercover to France, and speak French just to get a chance to meet him, I would. So I did. And it started out in 7th grade with Intro to French, public school. They don't have these classes anymore because of funding, which is really sad. But I took advantage of that. And from 7th grade all the way up to the end of high school, I studied French. And I guess the moment that I realized that language learning truly is for me, I don't know. I guess people just weren't interested. When I would listen to music, I would listen to music from any other country. It didn't have to be English. I just needed to hear the rhythm and the musicality of whatever sounds were coming out of their mouth, whether it be Mandarin this time or Norwegian this other time or French this other time. It just had to sound cool to me. And I think maybe that was the moment I realized, okay, this is different for me. I love languages as more than just something that you write on paper.
Did you find when you were young, let's say when you were young and listening to music, did you find like you were drawn to the lyrics element rather than say the rhythm or the musician, the musical aspect? Did lyrics grip your imagination?
Lyrics came much later, years later, actually. But in the beginning, it was really just listening to the sounds that they were producing with their mouth. I mean, maybe that's why I do so much pronunciation now as an adult, as a teacher. But back then it was, I could feel the emotion from whatever they were saying. I didn't need to know what they were saying. That came into later as I really truly loved the sounds of a language. That's when I dove into Japanese. Okay, I have to. This sounds too cool. What are they saying? And then you find out it's some, sappy romantic song, but still, it sounded really cool. Yeah, that's kind of how it evolved for me, from sounds to, okay, I have to figure out what these sounds mean, to eventually, here I am listening to other people's sounds and diagnosing it as pronunciation.
I love what you've said about wanting to meet Johnny Depp and that motivating your study of French. But it's such a great lesson, because in childhood or youth, if you were to tell your parents, I have to learn French so I can meet Johnny Depp, they would laugh and think it's silly or frivolous. But we can actually say it's one of the beginnings of your professional career. So
Yeah.
I don't work with children, and I don't have my own children, but I've often been fascinated with how there's such wisdom in early youthful choices and interests that on the surface to a parent probably doesn't look like much, probably doesn't look like a career trajectory, but there's a kernel of insight there, that there's some connection that a young person is seeing. Maybe it's mixed up with youthful hormones and interest in Johnny Depp. We've all been through that, but there's something else connected to the appeal to Johnny Depp. It's in order to meet someone like him, or maybe he stands in for a whole range of possible friendships in the future, you need a language to access that. So I just think that's really, really fascinating, how those early moments are first steps in a direction, even when they don't appear to be. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you went to school, you studied stuff, you came out on the other side. Now it's time to think about, I need a job. What can I do with my education? And
Yeah.
you started traveling and teaching around the world. That takes a lot of courage. Yeah. That takes as much courage as an international student coming to our countries to study. Where did you get that courage? Or that boldness?
Well, I had been traveling a lot as a kid. Actually, from 9.5 to about 15 years old, I had already been to most of the world.
Wow, fantastic.
That's just because I was raised by people who were in the prime spending years of their life. I was really fortunate. Having been able to do that and see that and really truly feel that I am a global citizen, this is my planet too, then it opened me up to, well, where do I want to study? What should I do? Where should I go actually? What imprint do I want to make? I knew I just wanted to be around certain countries because of the languages I had studied. France for my study abroad, Japan because my love for the culture, music, and also studying the language. Picking up a minor in Japanese as well, having that is a nice for merit as well. But yeah, it wasn't until my experience in Japan where it was that cuspus of, oh my gosh, I'm going to graduate soon. I'm not really happy with the whole business degree because that's what we do to satisfy our parents. But through teaching and also what I learned from my students' successes, that was when I realized, is this something I could do? I enjoy it. It doesn't feel like I'm working. Could I make this an actual career out of it? And I had a group of 3 kind of grandma students who really pushed me to become a teacher. And here I am today.
That's fantastic. So you encountered some students who became actual mentors for you in a sense.
Yeah, diehard fan mentors. Yeah, I've always had that throughout my entire career, and success of my business has been through fan mentors who cared enough, who said, no, we need this to happen for you. Okay, this needs to happen right now. And they just walk me through the process. They hold my hand, and then I've elevated myself in some way.
That's lovely. I've often said and searched for myself a sort of a champion, someone who really believes in what you're doing, but also are in a position to support or help you in some way, whether it's with advice or technical collaboration or support. I find that to be so crucial if you're a creative person. The same way performers need an agent to believe in them, or a manager who can take care of all the technical aspects, logistical aspects of being a performer, and the performer can perform. content creators need that too. They need somebody, I think, to guide them, point them in the right direction. For example, there are a lot of YouTube videos about how to do this and how to do that, and best strategy for building a business or best strategy for creating a live stream or a video channel. But they don't know your channel. They don't know your vision. And to get that kind of direct mentorship where you can explain your vision and they can prescribe a strategy, that costs a fortune to get that kind of coaching.
Yeah.
So sometimes it comes from our students. Sometimes we learn so much from we always learn from our students. But it sounds also like your students had great support and advice for you. Is that the case?
Yes, throughout my entire career.
That's fantastic. Okay, I have a question for you. I understand I understand that for a long time, and perhaps continue today, that you trained corporate language users in Silicon Valley in the technology space. So it sounds like you did put your business education to work in the service of your passion for education. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is that a good characterization?
Well, just like becoming a teacher, I fell into that. The whole tech space, I fell into that too. Getting hired by Berlitz Palo Alto, which does not exist anymore, by the way. But getting hired by them, they were the first and only one to offer me an interview at that time. The Japanese school system and the US school system doesn't quite align with the summer breaks. So I was out back in the US in August when all of the hiring had typically been done by like May, June in the US. So I come back and that was the only place that was willing to give me a shot at working. Go work for them. And they have this huge need for Google. Google was doing mass hiring at that time. I mean, hundreds of people per week. And what happened when they're typically coming from a different country, they need English support. So Berlitz had an exclusive contract for that first year. I just was right timing, and I was thrown into the world of software development. Not really by choice, but it was really great to talk to them, to get to see inside their world, to learn everything about the movie, I guess, The Internship with Ashton Kutcher, and to kind of live that, but never actually get to have to write a line of code, so to speak.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges and some of the insights or benefits that you pulled out of that experience? First of all, what were some of the challenges of being an educator in that space?
I guess finding something that's appealing to them at first, because they're so oriented on a task. They're so oriented on, I need to get better at work. How do I improve? How do I get my raise? Okay, well, if I do well in this class, she'll report all of this information to my manager and then I'll get a raise. Okay, how do I do this? It's not how language works. Sorry. So that was the first kind of step, was to get them to be interested in expressing themselves creatively instead of just input output like you would with a computer. Human language is different. Other than that, it wasn't that much of a challenge. It was fun. It was exciting. They came with B1 typically, a lot of people. So starting out there, they already had some ability to express themselves. So it was great just to hear like, okay, you're brand new to here. You went from, do I want this job? I mean, that's an amazing leap of faith to just totally, you've never been to the US before. You haven't studied that much English. You don't know anything about the culture. And yet here you are living here. Oh my goodness.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And on a daily basis, I met people like this. Like, tell me, what was that night like when you went to tell your significant other, you went to tell someone you're dating, like, I'm going to go move to the US in 2 weeks. How are you this morning? Wow.
It's incredible. And how did you get them to make that shift from task-based, task-focused to more of a process view of language learning? Are there some techniques or strategies you used?
At Language Hack, we say it's your English, your way. And the reason why, it's just so simple. It's the same thing that goes back to when I was learning other languages in my childhood. I just did what I liked. That was it. Like, I really liked Japanese things. I liked watching their movies. I liked listening to music. I liked watching silly commercials with my favorite rock stars in them. And I would repeat the same three sentence advertising the candy over and over again. But it was just, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I took the time to really cultivate that relationship with that engineer. They're more than just what they do at work.
Yes.
And it's finding out, and even with kids too, what kind of learner are they? What are their true interests? They're still learning that as a kid. Well, when you make that huge life transition to another country, you are completely rebuilding yourself. There is an identity change, more than just you in another language, but you outside of your home country where you don't have those same expectations on you now. Who are you now that you're not there at home plate? So, yeah, I just like to be there to support that.
I love that you said you characterize it as you are more than what you do. You are more than just this job that has brought you here. And now that you have that in place, but you're in a new place without those pressures and norms, you're free to sort of reinvent yourself. And language is kind of an access to that, isn't it?
It is.
Have you experienced that in your own life?
Oh,
sort
definitely.
Of in the new languages, you found a way to reinvent yourself or to open up different avenues of your character?
Oh, definitely. Yes. In France, it was, okay, here I am. I'm 18, turning 19 years old. How do we be cool like in the movies? Okay, we drink beer. Let's go. It was introduced to all of that. All of that was brand new. In Japan, it was, okay, now I've got a job in a different country and I have to navigate a train system for the first time when I'm used to driving on freeways by myself. Woohoo. It was just,
That's a big one.
it's that agency. It's that ability to, especially you feel kind of like fireworks in your head after you've said something grammatically correct. They understood all that work that happened in the classroom finally paid off, and you really feel something. I don't know what that is. Just like when you're developing striations in your muscles at the gym, like you feel something in your brain that moment, like, and I live for that.
There's something, forget about the quizzes and the tests and the successful exams. The ultimate success is when you communicate with someone and they understand you, and vice versa. That's the true test of your language skill, right? Is putting it to the test in a real context. Everything else is just preparation for that. So maybe there is something to this idea that whatever neurological reward system is in effect, that experience is incredibly exhilarating, isn't it?
It is. It's seriously. And that's why when I'm working with others as a language coach, I just want them to experience that. Yeah. Okay, we can talk about anything. We can talk about what Elon Musk did to Twitter last week. We can talk about what you did with your kids or, where you brought them to. I don't care. Yeah. We're going to simulate it so that you get that experience and you really understand that language learning is a reflection of you. Like it's a beautiful falling in love with you process.
I find myself in my work online, because it's so focused on grammar investigation, I find that I have to remind my viewers and my students that although that's my focus, my goal for my students and my viewers isn't to have correct or accurate English. The goal is to achieve that sense of clear communication with someone. And I just happen to believe that the different grammar structures allow a sense of precision so that you can convey the more exact idea that you're thinking. But the goal is always to have that experience of communicating effectively with someone else or having them communicate to you in a way you understand. So I find that I'm always adding that little, not a disclaimer, but a little caveat whenever I'm dealing with grammar, because I don't want them to get hung up on whether the grammar I'm explaining in my show is like, I'm prescribing it. This is what it is. That's why I call it an investigation. We're always taking a real life example and trying to understand the meaning that's being expressed with it. So that's at some point we can use that and someone can communicate it. But that thrill of communication is the goal. You know,
Yes.
I'm not dogmatic. I'm not into like correct or incorrect. I don't even like tests. But tell me if you've experienced this. Something I come across with my students all the time is they'll feel like they're not developing their English. It's not improving, teacher. And I jokingly tell them, well, you are, but you can't see it. It's like watching your hair grow in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's incremental, so small, you don't see it. But if you visit mom after 6 months, she'll say, hey, your hair is long. But I also remind them that I understand everything you're saying. So that is the win that we're after, isn't it? Reminding them that they're doing fine, you know?
Yes, so much of that.
You mentioned something about how that feeling is so powerful for you and so motivating for you. And that you chose teaching strategies that you liked, that you got a kick out of, that connected with your own interests. What are some of your interests? What are some of your hobbies and interests?
Yeah, I've always been into video games. Actually,
I don't know
yes.
anything about video game. What are we doing?
Oh,
like
no.
Xbox or?
Yeah, they're quite similar.
Okay.
But PlayStation, Team PlayStation.
PlayStation's
sure.
The one, okay.
Yes, and the Switch, just because the Switch is so easy, you can put it in your purse and go anywhere with it. Really, it's great. But it started out for me with Rocket League. I played a lot of Rocket League. I was teaching at Berlitz, Beverly Hills, to 2 Vietnamese nuns. It's Beverly Hills nuns. I don't know. That's just, again, just
That
falling into a
sounds
fun
ironic,
situation. Yeah. But that's what I did in my spare time. Was I was either at the gym, I was cooking, or I was playing Rocket League. It wasn't until I never cared about mixing games with education, even though I grew up on educational CD-ROMs. Putt-Putt, for example, Living Books, another example, more than just Oregon Trail that we had in public school. But it really wasn't until I started working with kids and I noticed that the kids of this generation, I don't even know what letter they're on right now. They're not Generation Z. There's something after Z, these current kids.
Yeah. Do we loop back to A? How does that work?
How do they get these names? I don't know. I'm a millennial. I don't even get a letter. What is that? Okay. I guess millennium, turn of the century.
And I'm a Generation Xer, yet no one talked about Generation W.
No. What is W? Who are they?
I think actually Generation X was the first time we referred to them as that. It was from a book by Douglas Copeland called Generation X. I think that's when it started. But now, because we started in the alphabet so late, now we're stuck.
Yeah. So this current generation. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Whoever the Z pluses are. Yeah.
Z plus. I like that. Sounds like an iPhone model. So we have the Z plus generation. And what I noticed with them, a lot of them, is immediately, maybe because they're born this way, I don't know, it's something about this generation. They're paper phobic. Not going to lie. And so it's working backwards. Instead of working with worksheets to go into computer exercises like I did at Berlitz with adults, now it's the other way around of, okay, trying to get them away from the screen and focusing back to the fun and joy of paper, along with the teaching elements that you need of English and grammar and all that other stuff. Sure. But that's what it's been, a consistent theme that I've noticed with this generation. So, and at the same time, yeah, we are working with a lot of that age group. It's parts of speech. It's a lot of grammar heavy words, declarative, interrogative, conjunction, correlating, well, no, maybe not at that stage, but all of these types of adverb, adjective, these are a lot of big grammar words that we don't get to use that often. So I
Hmm.
turned to video games as my way of saying, hey, we're going to make this fun. Either you know all of the things from the vocabulary list, or that monster is going to kill you. Not me.
Love it.
It's not a test. There's no red ink here. It's just survive, or that monster is going to get you. And they are so motivated. They remember so well. Maybe it is that boost of adrenaline because they do think that that monster is really going to get after them, which it's not. Um, but it just, they learn so much faster.
That I think you're onto something there, because how many times have you heard new teachers ask senior teachers, "Hey, how do you keep your students motivated?" And one of the things I've often encountered is basically, because I work with adults and professionals, they have an intrinsic motivation. They're seeking language improvement for their careers or their traveling hobby. So there's a motivation there, but that wanes, obviously. But what
Yeah.
you're suggesting here is virtualizing motivation, giving them a life or death motivation in the virtual space that to the reptilian amygdala brain feels very real.
Yes.
That's genius, because it creates a powerful motivation that's really virtual. Doesn't matter. The result is they're going to learn those words, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Um, if you've heard of the tool Word Wall, they have an option.
I haven't.
Oh, I love Word Wall. There's so
Word
much
Wall.
you can do with it. Yes, I'll have to
Cool.
share that with you afterwards.
Please.
But Word Wall is great. And one of the options you can use to quiz your grammar is Maze Chase. And it's basically like Pac-Man. And you can change the different themes. Do you want it to be spooky Halloween theme? Do you want it to be cute doodles theme? Do you want it to be just plain someone running away from robots theme? You can change it up for your class. You can change the speed. You can change how many lives. Um, and that's one of my, like, that's the top favorite. Even sixth graders love it. He's been playing it since he was in fifth grade, but he still loves it. Never gets
That's
old.
awesome.
Doesn't matter the content. They
Word Wall.
love it. Word Wall.
Well, we'll definitely put a link to that down below. That sounds really exciting.
It's been powerful.
I remember teaching at a language school around the time smartphones became ubiquitous and really a prominent feature of daily life. And there was so much resistance on the part of the school and teachers, and they experimented institutionally. We experimented with bans, with all kinds of sticks and carrots systems to get rid of the cell phones or get them out of their hands while they were in class.
Yeah.
But it struck me as, I just thought that was there's a sea change in this generation. And the only way to get through to them would be to meet them where their attention is, which is on the phone. And that was the first time, probably around, I want to say 2016, 2015, I started thinking, I've got to get into that phone. If I'm going to be a successful teacher going forward, as technology and culture around technology changes, I need to be inside the phone. And that's where I got involved with video. I started planning to, anyways, take my early steps towards video. So I want to ask you, you're working as a language trainer in a tech environment. Were you already, and your hobby was gaming, were you already deeply involved with social media, or did using social media for education evolve out of those experiences? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, that's so funny. So I grew up in the MySpace generation, so I knew what it was like to be an influencer and all the other silly stuff. In terms of social media marketing, my friend had a band at that time, and I knew about some of those different well, at that time it was called Friendster and I had a bunch of those things. That was something I did outside of my gaming time as a kid. And so I marketed her band. She got popular in a bunch of countries. It's called She Screams Remedy. It's a kind of girly screamo band. Anyways, I got into social media marketing without realizing what that was and how powerful that was at that time. Moving forward, I never tried to use it for education. I always did it as a hobby. And that's where my Twitch streaming came into play, pun intended. That's also and that was about the time when students started to tell me, you need a YouTube channel.
Mm.
This was about, yeah, around 2015, 2016 is when I started to get approached. And I think it was around 2012, 2013, I had written out the beginnings of a YouTube channel with a friend to start No Brainer English, actually, was the original
Nice.
plans for that. But that didn't happen with the friend. And Twitch happened. And then I was really scared of YouTube because of editing. I just saw the quality scale, that spectrum of quality on YouTube. And of course, I wanted to be top tier quality from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I couldn't have that from the beginning. And I pouted and I put it off. I put off YouTube for years. Here I am. I think I'm about a year into really working on my YouTube channel. And it's been amazing. It's been great. I know that I haven't hired any staff. Everything you see on my YouTube channel, I've done by hand myself.
Yeah.
So be nice with your criticism.
But same is true of mine. Absolutely. The same is true of mine.
Heart and soul, blood, blood, sweat, tears, all of it went into that. But I was just so scared at the beginning. Really, I really was. And now doing it, it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. I love taking this ownership. I love the agency from it. Okay, let's do some more.
It's interesting you describe it that way. In my experience moving to YouTube, I heard very similar things even at the beginning of YouTube because I was starting to get involved with independent filmmaking. Filmmaking was actually my absolute dream as a kid. And in my middle age, I decided to give myself permission to at least play with it. So I got involved with some independent productions. I started making some short films with some friends. So the filmmaking craft I was comfortable with. But as I started doing YouTube stuff, the thing that just seemed not only confusing, but terrifying was marketing. In the past, I even sort of ridiculed marketers because I found it so annoying. And I'm a cinema snob, so I despise ads and TV commercials and how dare they intrude on my consciousness. I really loathed marketing. And now here I was in a position where I have to learn how to do it. And I also respected it in the sense that, hey, people get degrees in marketing. I can't expect to be good at it after watching a couple of how-tos. So for me, it was the editing and the filmmaking side of video production was very comfortable for me. And although I'm not super comfortable performing, I'm not uncomfortable on camera either. But what I am uncomfortable with is promoting myself and saying, hey, come and check out this, or, look at me. That whole world freaked me out. So it's, only recently have I figured out what a hashtag is. Have you found that being a solopreneur, doing everything yourself, have you found that marketing is the challenge, or is it still producing the content? What's the more daunting challenge for you, or the most uncomfortable?
At this point, I think it's the editing of content.
Yeah.
I'm okay with going live. I'm okay with having a class. I'm okay with all of that because it's right here. I can feel the energy.
Yeah.
I can switch from activity to the next. I've got my bag of tricks handy. When it comes to making a video, it's more than just I've made the video with the take that I actually like.
Right.
It's now let me get the text bubble. Let me get the timing of the text bubble. Let me type the description. Oh, let me include those hashtags. Did I include the alt text so that people with vision disabilities can have an understanding of what this video is about? Oh, yes, I need to include that too.
Thousands of little choices and details, right?
Yes.
So many variables. It gives you a lot of creative freedom, but it's also crippling because it's so much work.
Into one post, there are so many steps that go into one post and so many types of text and variations and lengths. You have a blog post and that's X amount of information, but then you've got a description of a video and that's another type of thing. You've got the caption of a piece of content. That's another type of thing. And that it can get inundating sometimes.
I think one of the things newcomers to online content don't quite grasp when they watch their heroes on YouTube or TikTok is that a lot of the very successful ones have a team, and a lot of the work is delegated to a team or people on Fiverr or something, and that's how they're able to produce content every day, 2 or 3 pieces, to the point where algorithms are eating it up and passing it along the chain. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn just beyond making a good video. Right?
That is for sure.
So tell me something. As I said to a moment ago, you're a solopreneur. You do everything by yourself, right?
Yes.
And I appreciate that, because the same is true for me. I do everything out of this whiteboard. Everything here is an office in my apartment.
Wow.
In fact, 7 days a week, I barely leave this room. It's ridiculous. What are the greatest challenges being a solo entrepreneur in the education space that we're in, or I guess just in general? What are the pros and cons? Let's think of it that way. What are the pros and cons? What are the cons?
I was going to say, there are some great pros that come with this. There are a lot of challenges, and they're big, huge boulders that you got to stay clear from as an entrepreneur. I think I'm just speaking as a general entrepreneur. It's a beautiful process of defining what you want, or else whatever you have will consume you. So I'm just putting that out there. That's one thing, is really define exactly what you want to have and then go get it. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's great. Another challenge out there is you are flooded with so many choices. Okay, you want to upload a course? Okay, there are so many different places to upload your course. Do you want to have a file organization system? Okay, well, you can do it in many different ways. And every single thing has a jillion different choices of softwares, of platforms, of hired help, of not. You really have to think about how to strategize your time and make it worthwhile, because especially as an educator, we are educating, meaning we have that planning stage. We have the actual teaching stage. We have the post stage of reflecting what happened during that session based off of my plans, and how do I need to shift my plans in order for the next one. All of that needs to happen. So you really have to be a master of your time and use your planner wisely. That is your best friend, as your planner. But the pros, I haven't emphasized the pros enough. I know I've been talking about the scary challenges, but the pros out there is that since COVID, it has been an eruption of new technology and new opportunities in education that we have never, ever seen or taken advantage of before as teachers. And we need to wake up and rise up to that. And I mean, for example, I'm so blessed and thankful to have worked with Platzi. Platzi is a startup, but they're bigger than just the tiny word startup. In Latin America, they offer online education certificates, professional development of anything, marketing, UX, coding, you name it, they've got it. And so, but that opportunity itself, they treat their teachers so well. I was flown from California to Mexico, put up in a hotel, fed and dined for a week. Again, as a teacher, I never would have expected, something as great as that. But because this tech revolution is happening, that's when we as teachers, we have all that expertise that these tech companies don't have. They have the tech skills, they have the product development skills, but they don't have us. And so that's when we really got to put our hand out there and say, hi, nice to meet you. And I've been doing so since COVID, and especially since I'm in Silicon Valley, I do have more opportunities to go to events and meet others, but it has just simply been networking and seeing those opportunities. They are out there. They're great. They will treat you well, for teachers during this this kind of renaissance time.
Are there certain events or conferences that you'd recommend an educator who works online attending? I know of a couple like Vid Summit or VidCon for people involved with video. Do you know of any other sort of, well, any events that would appeal to edupreneurs online?
It really depends on what skill that edupreneur wants to get better at. And there's a conference for that typically. But I've
Okay.
just been to basic ones like GoDaddy is a place where you can have a website. Though I do not have my website through there, I was still invited to their summit and I went there in San Francisco in person, got to go to the talks. I met the CEO. Just a great way to network and collect those business cards and keep those relationships because you never know if they know somebody who knows somebody.
Right. That's something I've done zero of, and I'd like to be more involved in
Wow.
that. Yeah, I've done zero conferencing or networking. I mean, I've been involved with conferences as a teacher, but not this merging of education and technology. I really need to sort of get more involved with that. You mentioned Platzi. I've seen some of the work you've been doing with Platzi. This is a new project, isn't it? Pretty new, recent.
Yeah, I've had two courses with them this year, and that was all brand new on a whim. Couldn't believe that this relationship would even happen. But again, how did this come into fruition? I actually knew somebody who knew somebody, and I knew another somebody who knew another somebody. Those somebodies aligned, and so it was Kyra. Oh, we've heard of you before. You've heard of me before. Oh, I didn't know that this was possible. I haven't been on the internet as a teacher for very long, but here we go. Passed the interview, got to make my first course where they said, "Here's total creative freedom. Oh, we also have designers, we have editors, we have all these
Wow,
staff on deck for you. Have at it. We just want you
great.
to make it about this subject. Here you go." Awesome.
And they have all
Did
the
the first course.
facilities.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I
That's
mean, it was
incredible.
just going from the classroom to an opportunity like that, where they say, here's an old course. We want to freshen it up. Have at it. It's, it's a dream come true.
Yeah.
I had everything at my disposal. And it turned
And
out really
support.
well.
That's amazing.
Yes. Mentorship as well. I had a
Right?
course there on standby at all times. If I had a question, well, is it this way or this way? Which way do you think is better? They would let me know. Before the course gets finally uploaded to the website, they have a dedicated team of learners who go and watch it and take it and give me
That's awesome.
that perspective as well. It's so cool.
Sounds like you've found a champion who believes in what you do and wants to support it, right? That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope I can get invited for a third course. The first course was really, it was my first time doing anything asynchronous. So that was wild to think about all of the work I've been doing for the past 8 or so years. And then to say, okay, now you don't have any interaction with your learners. Go make something interactive. Interactive, but with no how do I, wow.
Hmm.
And for the first course they gave me, it was for A1, total
Okay.
beginners of English.
Yeah.
It was the biggest challenge. But again, I stuck with what do they know? What is their reality? If I'm going to be meeting these people through this website, this platform, I use the platform itself to teach all the vocabulary. You
Okay.
already know what video call is because you have
Yeah.
it through LinkedIn, you have it through Instagram, you have it through Facebook, you have it through everything else. Okay, well, you know what mute is. And I started to use everything that was in there to help teach through that. So much so at the end of it, they were like, oh, where's this platform and where can I download it? It's fake. It was just for imaginary purposes. The second course, I took a lot of my inspiration from you and the way you made your own series. I think that's beautiful. I think that
Oh,
is
thank you.
so talented to be able to take lessons and combine it, weave it with story. And
Hmm.
so through that inspiration, through our talks, I decided to try my hand at writing my own series. And I did that with Platzi.
That's
It's only
awesome.
4 episodes related to business English. And it's pretty exciting. We have some reviews on it so far. And it was a hit. And I really thank you for all of the advice
Oh,
um,
you're welcome.
about how to,
That's
interweave those two concepts together.
that's fantastic. Wow, I'm
My
honored that
total
you.
first time. And I was able to do that again, thanks to that relationship with Platzi. They said, hey, here's another
Wow.
course. Teach it however you want. Well, I have always wanted to have like a series where they watch the episode and then they learn from the episode. How do we
Yeah,
get that to happen?
that's
So
awesome.
somehow it happened.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. I want to ask you something that connects that to something you said a few moments ago about when you're alone as an entrepreneur and you have all of these variables and all of these myriad of decisions to make.
Yes.
And every decision, you know, starts a chain reaction in a different direction. How do you make these choices? Do you have some kind of compass or North Star or mission statement or philosophy? What guides your decision making?
A lot of different things. I look at it through a lot of different perspectives. So first, there's got to be a logical perspective of, well, as an entrepreneur, there's so much risk I can take. There's so much money I do actually have to make, and you have to know your numbers first. But then also there are projections out there. What direction could I go into as of maybe 6 months to 12 months down the line? But also there's your heart too, and this is you made this job for yourself. You have to make something that's worthwhile because you've got it made. Let's make it sweeter. Um, so figuring out that ikigai, so to speak, what you want to give, that also gives you the job satisfaction. If you can
Right.
combine those, then it's perfect.
That sense of purpose or direction, if you have something like that that's clear to you, it allows you to make those decisions. Okay, I've got 5, 6 different options. Which one fits that?
Yeah.
That's the one to make, right?
I mean, for me, it slowly. I mean, I'm hitting my 10th year of teaching next year, but it slowly came this way. I always said no to kids, but I realized that working with kids was the catalyst to really combining all of my strengths of performance, of video game, of
Yeah.
content creation, and acting silly sometimes, um, changing my voice, of singing, of all of these things. It all came together when I realized it's kids. You sing for kids, you act for kids, you play video games with kids. You can do that with adults, but it's only a small group of adults. And it all started to make sense over these years. But yeah, being true to myself, knowing what I liked, and knowing how to apply that with the right group who needed it.
And you are what they needed, clearly. But I mean, recognizing that with in all humility, I mean, is a powerful thing, isn't it? When you recognize that they need something and you have it, therefore you are what they need.
It's listening. It's listening, really, though. Listening to the adults and hearing what their struggles truly are versus what they tell you what they want out of a session.
Yeah.
Listening to the kids and telling you what actually happened at school, what their homework was, and how they feel about the week or the days coming ahead. If you really take a moment to listen and go, wait, you're just learning conjunctions and you feel stressed? Oh no, it is too early to feel stressed. Wait till you go to argumentative, analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're allowed to feel stressed. No.
Yeah.
No way. We can make this fun.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or a lot of the times it's reading logs. The teacher has a bunch of these questions about whatever I read. What am I supposed to say? That's another thing. It's like, no, you should not feel lost from a homework assignment ever.
Right.
Let's make this fun. We got this. Now that I've listened to you, I know exactly how to help.
That's great advice. Listen, right? Listen to your students and they'll tell you what they need in so many ways. I have a question for you. This is a little bit left field question, but I've been meaning to ask you this. As a solo entrepreneur, as a hardworking teacher, devoted to your students, how do you manage, I don't even want to use the word balance, but how do you manage your personal life, your personal interests and hobbies, your friends, with all of the work you have to do as an entrepreneur? How do you manage that? Is it possible to?
Yes, it's possible. I'm learning a lot. This business, I didn't start, I mean, it was founded and established as a business as of last year. It wasn't until 2020 when I went full on by myself. I cut off all ties with language schools and I made this 100% me. So things are still fairly new and
Mm-hmm.
fresh as an entrepreneur, as a full time work for myself person. And when it comes to those social relationships, I have had a lot of hard lessons to learn. And the beginning is, yeah, you are starting up a business and it does require all of your attention. Um, and you have to choose what is more valuable. That dinner where you drink a beer or two and you spend whatever amount of dollars, or putting that same amount of dollars into something related for your business, knowing that that's going to project you further,
Yeah.
and seeing the benefits of just investing in yourself because you have some dream, you have some type of future crystal clear in your head, while others are just kind of, well, I put in my 9 to 5 and I did what I needed to do, so I'm just going to relax until I have to be serious again.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that very quickly. And so my time with others became really limited. And now everything is, how much time can I invest in this? Do I need to invest
Yeah.
in this? There are so many things I want to make happen now, especially with those Platzi achievements, which again, I was trying for the first time doing those things and getting paid for it. It was a lot of risk and it was a lot of reward as well. All right, I can't stop. Now that I know that I have those abilities and I've done those things, I've got a lot of work to do, actually. Um, so I text my friends. I make sure I send more voice messages than, I'm not a big video person, but I send a lot of voice and audio messages so they can feel somewhat close to me. I do, every once in a while, schedule like some dates,
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays. It took me a long time to go from 7 days a week to 5 days a week. I've weaned back. I finally have weaned back. But yeah, it's been definitely a learning process of, I went from not talking to anyone, keeping my distance, even though they were definitely in full support of me and what I did, to finally, okay, I can learn how to balance these things. It's do what you want, do what makes you happy. Content creation makes me happy. Interacting and going live makes me happy, but also I get energized at a certain side from hanging out with my friends. And if they're native speaker friends, that allows you to get that balance between non-native and native time. They're
Yeah.
different Englishes, and it's cool to hear you're using that expression more, huh? Because usually I talk about this expression when I'm in teacher mode, huh? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's just
That's a
been
great
lovely to
great
note those
point.
things.
Yeah. Sometimes I find that I really long to hear beautiful, really advanced English. Uh, don't hear a lot of that on television or movies. So I really long to meet some of my really smart friends and just listen to their talk, listen to their speech. It's so refreshing.
Yes.
Or read, which is harder to come by. It's a lot slower of a process. Before we go, there's a couple of things I want to get to. I want to ask you another question that's a little bit off the path we've been on. Give this one some thought, because I'm going to ask this to all of my guests from here on in, because it's really nags me. Okay, you ready for this one?
Oh gosh, here we go.
Okay. You're a smart person. You're an educator. What I want to know is, why is a tennis ball fuzzy? Why is a tennis ball fuzzy? I mean, baseballs are made of smooth leather. They're smooth. Tennis balls have this furry coating. I need to know why. I'm the grammar detective, so one of the reasons I'm like that is because when I have a question, or there's a name someone's mentioned, remember that movie, blah blah blah, and no one can remember the name.
Yes.
I am locked onto that question or that mystery until I can find the answer. I just become obsessed with it. And this question, I'm dying to know the answer, and I don't want to Google it. I want to hear from someone else. So what do you think? Why is a tennis ball fuzzy?
Yes, so this would go into some physics. This is, even though I'm an English teacher, I'll tell you a little bit of physics that I know, and this has to do with friction. Well, tennis balls are also very, very, very bouncy. If you let them, they can go all the way out into the stadium. And so my theory is that they are fuzzy so that we need them to stay within the court. That fuzziness is there to damper that bouncy effect.
Right.
Versus when you're looking at a baseball, it's leather because we just want that clean hit for it to actually go someplace. Yeah. There's nothing stopping that ball from going anywhere.
And we don't need to damper the speed of a baseball. You have a huge park to play in. You have lots of people to catch the ball. And one of the goals is to hit it out of the stadium and never see it again. When you're playing tennis on a confined, fenced-in court, you want that ball. You don't have to want to trek around the other side of the fence to get the ball. So you're suggesting it's a design to limit how far away from you the ball gets, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. To slow it down.
That friction as it, yes.
Are most tennis courts concrete? I mean, my neighborhood one is concrete, but like at the professional level, do they play on concrete or AstroTurf kind of stuff?
I've only seen concrete, but I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Friction. I like it. Very nice. That's a good answer. Appreciate that. We don't want to Google everything. We want to hear it from experts.
I'm totally going to Google it after this.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm so curious now.
A couple more things. I want to know what's in the future for you and Language Hack and your projects. More Platzi. What's in your future?
So more Platzi, that's to be determined. But the course has just launched. So if you are interested in watching that episodic course series type of thing, please go check it out at platzi.com/Kyra Sage. Also, what's in the works is a relationship with VEI, that's VEI. They're a course creation platform for content creators like us. So I'll be uploading a course there, and there'll be some cross-promotional activities there. So I'll probably be acting as a brand ambassador. We'll see.
That's fantastic.
And I guess the last one would be my short eye guide. I've been releasing that as just kind of like a buddy to go workout system, just like you would like, okay, here's your pack for your 6-pack abs in 90 days or something like that. It'd be the same thing, but just for your short eye instead of other things you can do in pronunciation. So that's on sale right now on just languagehack.co, and you can find that there. And those are all the things that are currently offering. For the future, I just became vice chair of a nonprofit. And so, yay.
Wow.
We help teachers have accessible professional development of English language teachers, because sometimes science is taught in English outside of English-speaking countries. So how do you teach a subject when English is your second language? So those are the types of teachers that we help with this organization. And now that I'm stepping in as vice president, it's really like, okay, how do we make this business work? It's still a nonprofit, but it's still a business. And so I'm excited to really get more organizational leadership over some of the processes there, and to work together with the chair to make those changes happen.
Incredible. You're very busy already. And now these new projects are going to keep you busy. So I hope you'll take care of yourself, as well as managing your friendships and your hobbies and so on. Take care of your health, because it's the foundation for all the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I will.
Before we leave, I want to invite you to share with our viewers, many of whom are English teachers, but many of whom are also learners. So let's focus on the learners. I'd like you to offer them 3 tips for general tips or specific tips for getting better at English. What can they do to improve their English? I'm often asked that on my show. Teacher, how can I improve my English? And it seems so large a question, I can't answer it. Certainly not within the framework of a show about grammar analysis. So I'm going to invite you to offer 3 tips to our viewers. What 3 things can they do, Kyra, to improve their English?
Ooh, all right. If we're at the beginner level of a language, then just use it. Even if you only have 2 types of sentences, you can say a lot with that long vocabulary list that you have. So just construct as much as you can. As you get into the intermediate level, this is where you need to get obsessed. You have a lot of language under your belt if you're intermediate. So this is when you get obsessed with something, whether it's a TV show, a podcast, a song, a particular artist. Get obsessed with it and immerse yourself even more, because this is the part where you get more expressions and you're at that point as an intermediate level to pick and choose. Advanced learners, now we have to make a habit out of it. You're too good. You can't take a class anymore. You can't watch that YouTube video. I mean, you could, but it's all that stuff you've already learned. You can't find the education you need online. You could get a tutor. That's great. And you can get a language coach. That's even better. But you need to make some type of habit, whether that is going to a meetup group or there's a particular gym where they do it in whatever language. But this is where it's use it or lose it, because you're so advanced. Find friends, find a coach, but find a way to make it a habit so you have it forever.
You heard it, everybody. 3 tips, 1 for each level, general level of English development. Beginners, intermediates, and advanced. You're all covered. That's great. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and insight. I really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you've shared with us on the show today. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you here on Hardboiled English Live, Kyra.
Thank you so much for having me and taking the time to ask me all these great questions.
Well, you're welcome. Absolutely. It's been wonderful. And it's long overdue. I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time, and I'm so happy we were able to do it finally.
Yes, finally. And hopefully I can get one of these Fridays off to do it live with you.
That would be great. You're always welcome. I recently changed the time of the show from 6 p.m. Pacific time to 3 p.m., hoping that it would be more of a sweet spot, especially for the South American viewers, because that puts it, during our daylight savings times, that puts it at 8 o'clock for them, whereas before it was 10, 11 p.m.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's better for you or worse, but until the springtime, it's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific.
Okay. I will message you about that.
Great. And good luck with all the things you're doing, all the new projects, all the existing projects. And we'll get all your links down in the description box. But where's the main place they can find you, the viewers, if they want to follow you or watch you or connect with you?
Just like my Instagram handle, www.languagehack.co.
Okay.
.co, not com.
.co. I made the mistake once. I went some other strange thing.
Oh, no.
.co. Yeah.
Yeah, CO.
Wrong rabbit hole I went down.
Uh-oh.
Thank you again, Kyra, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks again, and take care. Best of luck with all the things you're working on.
It was great chatting with you. Hope to chat again soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching tonight's show. If you have an English grammar question, an English mystery, contact me on social media and send me a video of you asking the question. I'll investigate it on a future show. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to get all the updates about videos and events. If you're feeling generous, you can also donate to the production costs of the show at Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. Finally, until the next time I see you on Hardboiled English Live, I want you to keep learning English. Stay healthy and stay cool.